Sorry for keeping you waiting. We will continue with the story. Logan drove without seeing the road. Rain smeared across the windshield in frantic strokes. The wipers cut through it rhythmically, but nothing cleared the storm inside him. Every mile he put between himself and Tasha felt like peeling skin from bone, necessary, excruciating, nauseating. He didn't know where he was going until the city lights thinned and the iron gates came into view. St. Alden's Cemetery. The Pierce family plot sat on the hill, guarded by oaks that seemed older than Charleston itself. The storm made them sway like grieving giants. Logan parked crookedly, left the engine running, and stepped out into the downpour. The rain was cold enough to sting to shock to force him back into his own body. He welcomed it. He walked through rows of stone until he reached the headstone he'd visited 100 times, but never with so much venom twisting inside him. Edward James Pierce. Beloved father. Visionary leader. Devoted son. The lies carved in granite looked obscene. Logan stood before the stone chest, heaving rain plastering his hair to his forehead. "Why didn't you tell me?" he whispered. The question cracked like a bone. He knelt, fingers digging into wet earth. "You loved her," he choked. "You loved Tasha's mother, and you let me grow up believing you only loved my mother. You let me believe you were loyal and perfect and whole." Lightning split the sky overhead. "I worshipped you," Logan said hoarsely, "and you built your life on a secret that destroyed hers." His throat closed. "God, Dad, what am I supposed to do with that?" The rain answered him, or maybe silence did. He bowed his head, forehead touching the cold stone. He had wanted answers. He had wanted a sign. He had wanted his father to rise from the ground and say, "Choose love. Choose her." Instead, he felt only the raw truth of grief, a truth sharp enough to cut. His phone vibrated. He ignored it. Another vibration. Then another. He finally pulled it from his pocket. Tasha's name flashed across the screen. His heart lurched. He almost answered. Almost. But then another notification popped up right below it. Unknown number. "You're digging where you shouldn't. Leave the past alone, Logan Pierce." Another message. And another. "The girl is a distraction. History must not repeat. Walk away before you ruin everything." A chill slid down his spine, colder than the storm. Another text arrived. "We warned her mother too." Logan froze. His blood turned to ice. He read it again slower, to be sure he didn't imagine it. "We warned her mother too." He straightened abruptly, rain dripping from his jaw. He felt suddenly violently sober. Someone living knew the truth about his father. Someone connected to the Pierce machine. Someone watching. "Tasha," he breathed. He dialed her immediately. It rang once, twice, 3 times. "Tasha, pick up. Pick up." His voice broke. Voicemail. He tried again. Nothing. A bolt of panic shot through him so fierce, he swung back toward the path, nearly slipping on wet ground. He sprinted to his car, slammed into the driver's seat, and sped down the cemetery road with reckless urgency. He didn't even know where he was driving until he realized his hands had already chosen. Her apartment. He practically flew through the streets, heart pounding, jaw clenched. Every terrible possibility bloomed in the back of his mind, dark and twisting. When he turned onto her street, something inside him snapped. Her building's front door was propped open. Lights flickered in the hallway, and Tasha's friend Mia stood outside shaking. "Mia!" he shouted, skidding to a stop. "Where is she?" Mia spun, eyes wide and frantic. I don't know. She was in her apartment with her phone. Then I heard something fall, like something heavy. And when I ran over, the door was open and what? And she was gone." His pulse stopped. "What do you mean, gone?" I mean, she wasn't there. Logan, Mia cried. Her phone was on the floor. Her bag was still on the chair. She doesn't just disappear. Lightning lit the street, casting everything in white-blue panic. Did you call the police? He demanded. I tried, but they said she might have just stepped out. They said they can't treat it as an emergency yet. She's an adult. And Logan felt something savage rise inside him. She didn't just step out, he hissed. He shoved past Mia into the building. She ran after him. Tasha! He shouted, voice echoing. Tasha. Nothing. He reached her apartment. The door stood cracked open like a wound. He pushed it with trembling fingers. Her phone lay on the rug. He crouched, lifting it. Screen shattered. Still warm. His stomach twisted. Mia hovered near the doorway, eyes glossy. Logan. Someone took her, didn't they? He inhaled deeply through his nose. Yes. Everything told him yes. But he couldn't say it, not yet. Not until he had proof. His own phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. Step back, Logan. This isn't your fight. Leave her and she won't be harmed. A pause. Then, you already lost your father to this. Do you want to lose her too? The world roared in his ears. He didn't remember standing. He didn't remember dialing. He only knew he was suddenly calling the one person he had avoided since the day he learned the truth. Grandfather. The call connected. Logan. Lionel said calmly, It's late. Don't do this. Logan said, voice low, lethal. Whatever the hell you think you're protecting, stop. Silence. Heavy, cold. Then Lionel said, I warned you. I warned her. You chose not to listen. Logan's heart slammed against his ribs. Where is she? Another quiet moment ticked by. You are a Pierce, Lionel said softly. Act like one. Protect the family. Protect the legacy. Let the girl go. Tell me where she is. Logan growled. I will not say it again. Lionel's voice sharpened like a blade. Walk away. If you hurt her, I don't hurt people who stay in their place, Lionel replied. But I will protect this family at any cost. Logan's vision went red. You are going to regret every word you just said, he whispered. Because I'm not your obedient grandson anymore. He ended the call. Mia stared at him, trembling. Logan, what are you going to do? He slipped Tasha's phone into his pocket and moved past her with terrifying clarity. Every muscle in his body thrummed with purpose. Everything he said. His voice was steel. Everything they swore I would never dare. He didn't know exactly where she was, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The Pierce family wasn't finished with the past, and neither was he. Tasha woke to darkness. Not the soft, familiar kind that wrapped a bedroom at night. This one felt thicker, like it had shape-weight temperature. Her head throbbed. Her wrists burned. Her breathing came fast, shallow, panicked. She wasn't lying on her bed. Not on Mia's couch. Not anywhere she recognized. She was on a narrow cot, bolted to a concrete wall. And her wrists. A cold rush of fear shot through her. Plastic zip ties. Tight. Cutting. Her chest seized. Stay calm. She had told hundreds of patients that during panic spirals. But she was no therapist now. She was a woman tied to a cot, in a room with no windows, no clocks, no sound, except her own heartbeat hammering like a trapped animal. She forced a breath. Then another. She tested the zip ties slowly, deliberately. They didn't budge. A faint hum vibrated through the floor. Machinery. A generator. She didn't know. But she knew this. She wasn't in someone's house. This felt too sterile, too isolated, too intentional. A door clicked. Her breath froze. Light spilled into the room, harsh white, unnatural. A silhouette stood framed in the doorway. Tall, broad shoulders. Not Logan. Definitely not Logan. The figure stepped inside and flipped the switch. The entire room glowed a cold, industrial white. Fluorescent bulbs, concrete walls, no windows, a camera in the corner. A man she had never seen before approached her. He wasn't large, but he carried authority like a second skin. Dark suit, pressed shirt, no tie, expression unreadable. "Ms. Morgan." His voice was smooth, almost polite. "You're awake." "Who are you?" she whispered. "I'm here to keep things stable." Her mouth dried. "Where am I?" "A secure location," he said evenly. "Temporary. You'll be released when this matter settles." "What matter?" Her voice rose. "Why did you bring me here?" "You crossed into dangerous history," he replied. "And history has consequences." She stared at him, shock freezing her thoughts. Not random, not accidental, targeted. "Did Lionel Pierce send you?" she breathed. A flicker barely noticeable passed over the man's face. "Lionel has concerns," he said. "Concerns we are tasked with preventing from becoming reality." "We!" she repeated. He didn't elaborate. She leaned forward, heart pounding. "You have no right to keep me here." "We have every right," he said softly, "when the integrity of a family empire is at stake." Her stomach twisted. "I'm not a threat to the Pierces." "Not intentionally," he agreed. "But your existence opens questions best left unanswered." "My existence," she echoed, voice cracking. "I'm not some scandal. I'm a person." The man observed her with unsettling calm. "Emotions complicate things, Ms. Morgan. You should not have involved yourself with Logan." "We didn't choose where we met," she whispered. "And you don't get to decide who I love. That's precisely why you're here." His tone sharpened. "Feelings make you unpredictable. You have the potential to unravel decades of carefully managed legacy." Anger surged through her fear. "You think you can cage me because Logan cares about me?" Tasha hissed. "I can," he said quietly, "because Logan cares too much." Her heart pounded so hard she felt dizzy. "I will not hurt you," the man continued. "We simply need time to ensure Logan makes rational decisions. He has been volatile." "Because he loves me," she said, breath shaking. "Because you pulled him from the hard-earned path set for him," the man corrected. "He is meant to lead, to uphold what his father began, not to repeat Edward's mistakes." Tasha froze. Edward. Her father. The man who died believing she never existed. "You don't get to speak about him," she whispered fiercely. "Don't I?" the man replied. "I knew Edward well. I was younger then, but my loyalty has always belonged to the Pierce dynasty." Her pulse stuttered. "You knew my father." He hesitated just enough to confirm it. Tasha felt the room tilt. "What happened to him?" she demanded. "How did he really die?" The man exhaled slowly, almost regretfully. "Some truths are not safe. I have a right to know, not if knowing destroys you." His words sank into her skin like ice. "And Logan," she forced out. "What will you do to him?" That the man said, stepping back toward the door. "Depends entirely on him." The lock clicked behind him. The room dimmed. Silence swallowed her again. But she wasn't the same woman who had woken in panic minutes before, because now she knew. She wasn't just a threat to the Pierces. She was a threat because of the truth her mother died protecting. Her father. Edward Pierce had loved her mother enough to walk away from his empire, and the empire had crushed him for it. Tasha lifted her bound wrists and tugged at the ties again. Harder. Pain shot up her arms. She gritted her teeth. She kept pulling. Not for escape. Not yet. To feel something real. Something she controlled. Tears blurred her vision, but she didn't let them fall. Logan will look for me. He will. He always does. But another voice whispered in her mind. And what if they silence him too? She bowed her head, trembling. Please be safe, she whispered into the dark. Logan. He didn't remember driving home. Didn't remember grabbing his laptop. Didn't remember scanning every Pierce Foundation, Pierce Holdings, Pierce-owned shell company across 3 states. He worked like a man possessed. Lines of code, security maps, archived records, old property deeds. He opened digital files with passwords he shouldn't have known, permissions he shouldn't have bypassed. He traced phone pings. He triangulated signal dead zones. He downloaded old employee lists, names long buried. And then he saw it. His breath hitched. A property still owned by the Pierce Security Trust. Not listed publicly. Not mapped on city plans. But active. An old storm shelter beneath a decommissioned textile mill outside Charleston. A place with no windows. No address. No oversight. His heart slammed into his ribs. Tasha. He grabbed his keys. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered with a snarl. If you touch her, Logan. Not Lionel. A woman's voice. Low. Urgent. Afraid. Who is this? He demanded. I work for your grandfather, she whispered. But I can't let this continue. Logan went still. They took the girl, she rushed. She isn't safe. You're not safe either. Lionel isn't the one you should be worried about. Who then? Logan breathed. A beat of silence. Then, the man who served your father. The one who cleans the family's messes. He never stopped. Not even after Edward died. Logan's stomach twisted violently. Where is he? You already found the place, didn't you? She whispered. The shelter. His grip tightened on the steering wheel. Logan, listen to me, she said urgently. Once you go there, you can't turn back. This isn't just family business anymore. This is... The line went dead. Logan stared at his phone as if willing it to reconnect. Rain continued to fall relentless. He put the car in drive. No more fear, he whispered. No more secrets. He floored the gas and drove straight toward the place where Tasha was being held. Tasha. Footsteps echoed outside the door. Slow, measured, deliberate. The man from before a guard. Someone worse. The lock clicked. The door opened only an inch. Tasha. She froze. Her body jolted. Her breath caught painfully. Because the voice wasn't cold, wasn't threatening. It was desperate, familiar. Breaking. Baby, it's me. Logan stepped inside, soaking wet, breathing hard, face drawn tight with fear and fury. Her heart exploded. Logan! He crossed the room in 2 strides and tore through the zip ties with something sharp he'd concealed in his palm. Her wrists burned as the plastic snapped free. He pulled her into his arms. She collapsed against him, sobbing into his chest. I'm here, he breathed into her hair. I'm here. I'm not leaving you. She clutched him tighter. They said you'd walk away. They said you had to. Never. His voice was feral. You hear me, never. A shadow moved in the hallway. Logan's grip tightened. We have to go, he whispered. Now. Tasha nodded through tears. She wasn't afraid anymore. Not with him here. But as Logan guided her out of the room, keeping her behind him, steps soft and urgent, she caught sight of something, a file tossed on a steel table near the exit. Her name, her mother's name, her father's, and a label stamped in red. Confidential. Operation Sable. Her breath stilled. She grabbed the folder. Tasha. What are you? Whatever they did to my parents, she whispered, voice trembling but steady. We're ending it. Logan stared at her, pride and fear warring in his eyes. He took her hand. Together, he said. Together, she echoed. They ran. Into the storm. Into the truth. Into the fight that had begun long before either of them were born. The storm chased them into the night. Logan's hand gripped hers as they sprinted down the corridor. His breath ragged, his pulse racing like a second heartbeat echoing in her palm. Behind them, shouts erupted, boot steps, pounding against concrete, orders barked in clipped fury. Tasha, stay close. His voice was low, urgent, but steady. Steady in a way that anchored her despite the chaos. She held the folder against her chest, the words, Operation Sable, burning through the cover like fire. Every instinct urged her to stop, to open it now, to finally peel back the truth. But the shadow of danger loomed too close. They reached a side door. Logan shoved it open with his shoulder. Cold night air slammed into them. Rain lashed their faces. Thunder coiled overhead like an angry beast. This way, he said, tugging her toward a narrow service path leading down the hill. There's a breach in the fence on the south end. We can get out. But before they reached it, two figures appeared at the bottom of the path, silhouettes against the lightning. Tasha's breath faltered. Logan stopped dead. One of the men raised a hand, not holding a weapon, holding something far worse. A radio. Pierce, the man said, voice carrying even through the storm. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Logan tightened his hold on her. His voice was steel. Move. The man shook his head. You know I can't. Tasha, Logan murmured. When I say run, no. She gripped his jacket, fear slicing her chest. Not without you. His eyes softened for a heartbeat, blue and unguarded, drenched in rain and something deeper. Always with me, he whispered. Then, lightning exploded in the sky, a deafening crack. In that split second of blinding white, Logan surged forward, dragging Tasha with him toward the brush-lined slope on their right, an angle no one expected. Tasha now. They sprinted. Shouts erupted behind them. The crackle of radios, the thud of boots giving chase. Branches whipped at Tasha's arms as they plunged down the embankment. Mud slid beneath her shoes. She slipped once, but Logan caught her, lifting her momentarily off the ground, as if she weighed nothing. Keep going, he urged. We're almost. A gunshot shattered the air. Tasha cried out. Are you hit? Logan spun toward her, hands frantic on her shoulders, her arms, her waist. I'm okay. I'm okay. Her voice trembled, but her body was whole. More shouts above them, more footsteps. They're coming, she whispered. Logan's jaw tightened. He grabbed her hand again. Then we don't stop. They tore through the tree line until the ground leveled out into a marshy clearing. In the distance, lights shimmered, road lights, civilization. Safety. Maybe. Logan stopped suddenly and yanked a key fob from his pocket. A chirp sounded from somewhere ahead. Through the sheets of rain, a shape blinked, sleek, metallic. A car. A black Aston Martin, hidden beneath a camouflaged tarp. He ripped the tarp away, opened the passenger door, and practically lifted Tasha inside. Seatbelt, he ordered. She clicked it into place with trembling fingers. Logan vaulted into the driver's seat. The engine roared awake. Tasha, he murmured, eyes flicking to hers for the briefest moment. I've got you now. He floored the accelerator. The tires spun mud, then gripped. The car shot forward onto a gravel access road, flinging water behind them like silver shards. Branches scraped the sides of the car. The road twisted wildly. Logan maneuvered with the precision of a man who'd driven under worse conditions. Boardroom opponents, legacy hunters, family politics, far deadlier than storms. Tasha pressed a hand to her chest, breathing hard. Logan. Who were they? Those men who do they work for? His throat bobbed. I don't know all their names, he admitted, voice raw. But they've been in my family's shadow my entire life. Security, advisors, enforcers, people who do the dirty work my grandfather pretends doesn't exist. And the one who took me, she whispered. Lightning flashed across Logan's face, revealing something dark behind his eyes. His name is Marcus Hale, Logan said. He was my father's confidant. Or so I thought. Tasha's breath stilled. He said he knew my father. Logan's hands clenched on the wheel. Thunder rolled. Rain hammered. The car sliced through the darkness. He did, Logan said finally, which means he knows more about Edward's death than anyone ever admitted. Her chest constricted. Logan. What if your father didn't die the way they said? I'm starting to think he didn't, he murmured. I'm starting to think none of us knew anything. Silence thickened the air, charged with grief, fear, and truth. Tasha pulled the folder from her lap, fingers shaking. We need to open this. Not now, Logan said, glancing at the rearview mirror. Hold on. Tasha turned. Headlights. 2 sets. Approaching fast. Her heart spiked. They're behind us. Logan downshifted, every muscle in his arm flexing, as he sped onto the main road. They won't stop, he said. Not until they get what they want. And what is that? She whispered. His jaw worked. Control. Silence. The same thing they took from my father. Tasha looked down at the folder. Operation Sable. Her mother's name. Her father's name. Her own. She flipped it open. Inside, photographs. Signatures. Medical records. Security memos. And a document stamped with the Pierce crest. Her breath cracked. Logan, she whispered. You need to see this. But something in his posture went rigid. Tasha. His voice lowered to a warning. We're being forced off the road. The headlights behind them angled sharply, closing the gap. He jerked the wheel, swerving. A dark SUV pulled alongside them, windows tinted. Tasha down. She ducked as the SUV veered closer. Too close, its bumper grazing the Aston Martin with a metallic screech. Logan fought the wheel, teeth gritted. They're trying to box us in, he growled. Logan, I see them. Another SUV appeared ahead. They were trapped. Tasha's pulse thundered. What do we do? Logan's breathing steadied, slow and focused. The kind of calm people mistake for fearlessness. The kind that's really the edge of collapse. We survive, he murmured. And I don't let them take you again. The SUV in front slowed, forcing them between the 2 vehicles. One behind. One ahead. Closing. Squeezing. Logan's fingers shifted to a hidden switch beneath the steering column, a switch she'd never seen before. What is that? She whispered. A last resort, he muttered. He flicked it. The car jolted. A burst of acceleration slammed them back into their seats as the Aston Martin leapt forward with a force that nearly ripped the road in half. The SUV ahead swerved too slow. Logan veered left, barely missing it. Metal screamed as they scraped past its side. Sparks burst from the impact. Tasha, hold on. She clung to the seat, as he steered them onto a narrow bridge spanning a dark river swollen from the storm. The SUVs didn't follow immediately. The bridge was too tight, but they reached the base seconds later. Logan pushed the engine harder. Tasha. His voice was shaking now, not with fear, but with something deeper. I need you to trust me. I do, she whispered. He took a breath. Good, because once we cross this bridge, we're not going back. She didn't know what that meant, but she nodded anyway. Behind them, at the base of the bridge, the man in the lead SUV lowered his radio. Marcus Hale's expression was unreadable. Should we follow? One of the men asked. Marcus studied the bridge, the dark river, the storm-racked sky. Then he smiled, thin and chilling. No, he said. Let him run. He'll lead us exactly where he thinks they'll be safe. And the girl. Marcus's smile didn't reach his eyes. She's the key, he murmured. But Logan doesn't know that yet. He closed the radio. We follow at a distance. And when they stop, that's when we take everything. Back in the car, the bridge rattled beneath them. Tasha finally opened the document at the top of the file, the one marked with the Pierce crest. Her eyes widened. Oh my God, she breathed. Logan glanced at her. What is it? He asked. She looked up, face pale. Logan, this isn't just about your family. It's about mine. She handed him the page. He read it once, then froze. Lightning cracked above them. Rain hammered the windshield. Tasha. His voice broke. On the page in black and white. Operation Sable. Primary objective. Cover the unauthorized pregnancy of Marianne Morgan and her disappearance. Secondary objective. Terminate Edward Pierce's intention to leave the Pierce family for her and unborn child. Below it, a signature. Marcus Hale. Another line. Authorization, Lionel Pierce. Tasha swallowed hard. They didn't just separate our parents, Logan. Her voice trembled. They destroyed them. Logan's hands tightened on the wheel. Tasha, we need to disappear. Where will we go? She whispered. He looked at her, not as a man running from danger, but as someone running towards something, for the first time in his life. Where they can't follow, he said softly, and where we finally take our lives back. But behind them, the SUV's headlights reappeared at the far end of the bridge, and this time, they weren't keeping their distance. They were coming. Fast. The mountain road twisted like a spine beneath the tires, carrying them higher, farther from the city, from Marcus Hale's headlights, from the echoes of everything they had just learned. Hours passed. Storm clouds dissolved into a cold dawn. The rain quieted into fog. And Tasha finally slept. Not peacefully, not fully. Her head rested against the passenger window, her breath unsteady, her hand still gripping the folder, even in dreams. Logan watched her in brief glances, memorizing her profile each time. The tension in her brow, the exhaustion clinging to her lashes, the bruised shadows under her eyes. She looked breakable, and she was the strongest person he'd ever known. He returned his eyes to the road. He had to keep them alive. He drove until the sun rose behind them, in soft gold, illuminating the dirt road, leading to a secluded cabin, tucked deep into the Blue Ridge Mountains. A place no Pierce would ever think to look. He parked behind a stand of trees. The cabin was old, weather-worn, and isolated. Perfect. He turned off the engine. For the first time since he pulled her from that concrete room, silence wrapped around them without threat. Tasha, he whispered, gently brushing her arm. She stirred, eyes fluttering open. For a moment she looked confused, lost. Then everything returned. The warehouse Marcus, the chase. The file and her expression tightened with a mix of fear and determination. "Where are we?" she murmured. "A safe place," Logan said softly. "Or as close as we can get right now." She exhaled, shakily nodding. "Come on," he said. "Let's get inside." They stepped into crisp mountain air, the scent of wet pine surrounding them. Tasha hugged her arms around herself, not from cold, but from the weight of what they carried. Inside the cabin was simple, a wood stove, 2 rooms, old blankets, a table scarred with time. Tasha set the folder on the table, staring at it, like it held the remainder of her destiny. "We need to talk," she whispered. "We will," Logan said. But first, his hands hovered near her shoulders. "You need to rest. You haven't had a moment to breathe." She laughed softly, a broken sound. "Rest, Logan. They kidnapped me. They tried to kill us. Your family ordered an operation to erase my parents' love, and—" Her voice cracked. "I don't think rest is possible anymore." He stepped closer slowly, as if approaching something fragile. "You're shaking." She opened her mouth to deny it, but she wasn't in survival mode anymore. She was in the quiet after the storm, and the shaking was real. Logan reached out, brushing her cheek with the back of his hand. "You're safe with me." Her breath stuttered. "I know." He lowered his forehead to hers. No kiss, no demand, just closeness. "Whatever happens next," he whispered, "we face it together." Her hands rose to his shoulders, gripping him like he was the only stable thing left in the world. "I believe you," she breathed, and only then did she let out a sob. He held her until it passed, until her breathing steadied, until she could stand on her own again. When she finally pulled back, she wiped her face and took a seat at the table. "Let's go through the file." Logan joined her. She flipped through pages with trembling fingers. Each document peeled back a new layer. A photo of her mother outside a clinic. Edward Pierce's signature on a withdrawal form. Security memos, tracking her mother's last weeks. Private letters, warning of disruption to the line of succession. And finally, Edward's death certificate. "Cause of death," Tasha whispered. "Cardiac arrest." Logan shook his head. He was 39. Perfect health. No cardiac history. So they lied. She swallowed. Marcus lied. He reached for her hand. She didn't let go. "We need proof," he said. "Real proof." She turned the final page. A blood test. One name highlighted at the top. Marianne Morgan. Subject S01. Tasha's breath fractured. Subject Logan's stomach dropped. "Tasha," she kept reading. Under the summary, confirmed genetic markers shared with the Pierce lineage. Further observation advised. Potential for future leverage high. Her pulse hammered in her ears. "They monitored me," she whispered. "When I was a child." Logan's throat tightened. "It looks like it." Her hands trembled over the paper. "So they always knew," she said. "I was never hidden. I was never safe." She stood abruptly, pacing the length of the room. "I thought my mother was protecting me," she whispered, voice breaking. "But they were watching us anyway." "Tasha." "God, Logan. Your family turned my life into a case file." The anguish in her voice sliced through him. He stood and approached her cautiously. "Tasha, look at me." She didn't. He gently caught her hands. She let him. Her eyes shone with betrayal, grief, fury. "This isn't your fault," he murmured. "You're wrong," she whispered. "It is. You're a Pierce Logan. And everything that's happening, it's because of that name." He flinched but didn't let go. "No," he said quietly. Everything that's happening is because people abused that name. Because men who had power used it to destroy instead of protect. I am not them. She exhaled, shoulders sagging. I know, she whispered, but sometimes the truth hurts even when it isn't your fault. He rested his forehead against hers again. Then let it hurt, he murmured. We'll survive it. Silence fell. A soft, almost tender silence. Until a knock. Both froze. A single knock. Soft. Uncertain. Logan grabbed the nearest object, a cast-iron poker from beside the stove. Tasha, he whispered, stay behind me. She nodded. Logan approached the door, every muscle taut. Who is it? He demanded. A shaky voice answered. It's me. Mia. Tasha's knees nearly buckled. Mia, she croaked. How did you find us, Tasha? Please, Mia begged from the other side. Let me in. I've been so scared. I drove all night after you left. I didn't know where else to go. Tasha rushed to the door, but Logan grabbed her arm gently. How did she know where we were? He murmured. Tasha hesitated. I don't know. She must have tracked my phone, or followed us, or guessed. But Logan didn't release her. His eyes were hard, sharp, certain. Tasha, your phone was smashed when they took you. Silence. Then, a tremor of doubt rippled through Tasha's expression. Mia wouldn't betray me, she whispered, voice trembling, but it sounded like a question. Logan stepped closer to the door. Mia, what car did you drive? Silence. Then a soft, practiced answer. My blue Honda. Tasha's breath caught. Mia didn't own a Honda. Logan's face went cold. He mouthed, back up. Tasha moved behind him, heart racing so loudly she could barely hear anything else. Logan unlocked the door in a single decisive motion and yanked it open, revealing not Mia. A woman in a rain-soaked blazer, hair dark, face pale, eyes filled with regret. Tasha gasped. Dr. Kim. Sarah Kim, director of the wellness center, stood trembling on the porch, arms wrapped around herself as if holding in a hurricane. Tasha, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Logan raised the poker, stepping forward. You work for them? Yes. Her voice cracked. I have for years. They recruited me when Edward died. They said it was to protect the community. To protect you. Tasha's stomach twisted. You knew, she whispered. You knew who I was. I suspected. Sarah swallowed hard. But I never wanted you to be hurt. You have to believe that. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Sarah lifted something from her coat pocket, a small USB drive. This, she said, is everything Marcus hid. Everything the Pierces covered. I didn't know what they planned for you until it was too late. Why bring it to us? Logan demanded. You could have run. Sarah's eyes flicked to Tasha, soft, pained. Because I owe her the truth, she whispered. And because Marcus is coming. He already knows where you are. Logan stiffened. How long do we have? He asked. Sarah's breath shook. An hour. Maybe less. Tasha felt the ground vanish beneath her feet. Sarah, why help us now? She whispered. Sarah's face contorted a mixture of guilt and love, and something older than either. Because your mother saved me once, Sarah whispered, and I couldn't save her. The room went silent, absolutely silent, until Sarah added, and because Marcus Hale wasn't just loyal to Edward. She looked up, eyes on Logan. He killed him. For a long moment the cabin held its breath. Sarah's confession. He killed him, hung in the air like smoke, thick enough to choke on. Logan didn't move. He didn't blink. He didn't speak. He simply stood there, the poker still in his hand, his entire body carved into a stillness that was more terrifying than rage. Tasha could almost see the fracture lines spreading across him, hairline cracks in a man who had survived everything except this, the truth he had spent his life begging for, now delivered like a blade against his throat. "You're lying," he said finally. Not loud, not sharp, just empty. Sarah swallowed. "I wish I were." Logan shook his head slowly as though trying to dislodge the words. "Marcus loved my father. He protected him. He was a loyal soldier." Sarah cut in softly. "A soldier who followed Lionel Pierce's orders without question, even when the orders destroyed the people Edward loved." Lightning flickered outside, illuminating her face. Wet hair plastered to her cheeks. Rain clinging to her lashes. Guilt etched deep. Tasha stepped closer. "Tell us what happened." Sarah clasped her trembling hands. "Edward told Lionel he was leaving the family, leaving the company, leaving everything. He was ready to disappear with your mother, Tasha. He was done being a Pierce." Tasha's throat tightened painfully. "He wasn't afraid anymore." Sarah continued. "Not of the board, not of the empire, not even of his father. He wanted a life with Marianne. He wanted a life with you." Logan's lips parted breath-catching. "He never told me." "He planned to," Sarah said softly. But Lionel learned first. The storm outside deepened the wind, clawing at the edges of the cabin. "What did Lionel do?" Tasha asked. Sarah exhaled shakily. "He told Marcus that Edward had lost his way, that he was vulnerable, that he needed intervention." "Intervention?" Logan's voice dropped into a cold register. "You mean elimination?" Sarah didn't answer. She didn't have to. Tasha felt Logan's world tilting beneath him. She reached for his hand, but he stepped back, breath uneven. "Logan," she whispered. "Don't," he said, voice shaking. "Just don't. I need a second." He turned away, one hand pressed to his chest like he was holding himself together by force, and Tasha felt her own heart ache with the urge to go to him. But before she could decide, before he could breathe, Sarah spoke again. "You don't have much time." Logan's back stiffened. Tasha's pulse kicked hard. Sarah moved closer, urgency sharpening her features. "Marcus isn't far. He was tracking me. I tried to lose him, but he's had decades of practice controlling every step of Pierce business. He will find this place." Logan turned steel, returning to his eyes. "Let him come." Tasha moved in front of him immediately. "No." He froze. "Tasha." "No," she said again, voice rising. "You're not meeting him head on. You're not walking into another trap. Not for me." "It's not just for you," he said, stepping closer, desperation vibrating off him. "It's for my father." She grabbed his face with both hands, forcing him to look at her. Rain tears fear. She didn't know what soaked her more. "You avenge your father by surviving," she whispered fiercely, "not by throwing yourself at the man who murdered him." His jaw flexed. His eyes dropped to her lips. "Tasha," he breathed, "I don't care what happens to me. Not if they're trying to take you. Not again." Her heart slammed into her ribs. "You think losing you wouldn't kill me?" she whispered. "You think your life is worth less than mine, Logan?" But a sound cut her off. A crunch. A shift of gravel. Soft. Slow. Deliberate. Someone was outside. Sarah's head snapped toward the window. "He's here." Logan grabbed Tasha's wrist and pulled her behind him, retreating deeper into the cabin. "Get to the back room," he ordered. "Both of you." Tasha shook her head. "I'm not hiding." "Yes, you are." His voice was a low growl. If something happens to you, Tasha. What she demanded. Say it. His breath hitched. For a heartbeat, he was exposed, raw, terrified, in love. I won't survive it, he whispered. Tasha's eyes filled instantly. Logan. A heavy knock pounded through the cabin, followed by a calm, familiar voice. Logan. Open the door. Marcus. Logan's entire body turned to stone. Tasha grabbed his hand. You don't have to open it. He squeezed back once hard. Yes, he said quietly. I do. She shook her head. Logan, please. This ends now, he said. His voice held something she'd never heard before. Resolve, rage, grief sharpened into purpose. He stepped toward the door. Marcus spoke again, tone disturbingly gentle, like a father coaxing a stubborn child. Logan, be reasonable. I just want to talk. Logan laughed. It was hollow. You murdered my father. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Marcus answered, his voice still calm. Open the door, son. That single word, son, made Tasha's blood run cold. Logan reached the doorknob. Logan, wait, Tasha whispered. He turned slightly, eyes flicking to hers. Soft, unsteady, painfully in love. If I don't open this door, he murmured, he'll burn this cabin down with us inside. He turned the handle. The door swung open. Marcus Hale stood in the rain, like the storm was an afterthought, coat-soaked hair slicked back, expression composed. He didn't look like a murderer. He looked like a man who believed everything he did was justified. Hello, Logan, he said. I'm glad you didn't make me break the door. Logan didn't answer. Marcus stepped inside, surveying the cabin with quiet interest. His gaze passed over Tasha, lingering just a fraction too long, then slid to Sarah. So this is where the strays run, he murmured. Sarah stiffened. I'm not one of your soldiers anymore. He smiled, a ghost of amusement. You never were. You were insurance. Tasha stepped in front of Sarah instinctively. Marcus's eyes shifted back to her. Ms. Morgan, he said, you look remarkably composed for someone who's been kidnapped. I wasn't kidnapped. Her voice was low, controlled. But you already know that. Marcus tilted his head. Do I come on? She said. You knew exactly what you were doing. You wanted leverage over Logan, and over me. Marcus didn't deny it. Instead, he turned to Logan. You've caused quite a mess. Logan's jaw tightened. You killed my father. Marcus sighed softly, like someone discussing an unfortunate mistake. Edward made emotional choices. Dangerous choices. Choices that would have destroyed the family, the board, the entire empire your grandfather built. He wasn't thinking clearly. And you decided to fix that, Logan hissed. Yes. Calm. Simple. Cold. Tasha felt her stomach twist. Logan stepped closer. And what about Marianne Morgan? Marcus's eyes flicked to Tasha. That situation, he said, was handled. Handled, Tasha repeated, voice breaking. You ended my parents' lives. Marcus's expression didn't change. Your mother chose her path, he said, and Edward chose the wrong one. Tasha trembled with fury. You destroyed their future. I preserved yours, Marcus replied. Logan lunged, but Tasha grabbed him, fingers digging into his arm. Logan. No, Marcus didn't flinch. He simply watched, analyzing them both like data points. You two are repeating Edward's mistakes, he said. He followed love into ruin. You're doing the same. Logan's voice was dangerously low. You don't know anything about love. Marcus's expression flickered just once. Something unreadable. Something almost wounded. Then it vanished. You are a Pierce, Marcus said, and though you may resist it, your blood determines your future. Logan stepped forward. Not anymore. Marcus's lips curved slightly. Then he delivered the blow. Logan, you think Edward left everything behind for love? You think he chose her over the family? Logan's brows furrowed, confusion cracking through his fury. Marcus held his gaze. He didn't leave, Marcus said softly. He was planning to take something. What Logan whispered. And Marcus revealed the truth. It wasn't love that drove Edward to Marianne. A beat. It was the child she carried. Tasha's breath stopped. Logan's face drained of color. Marcus's voice lowered. He wasn't running from the family. He was planning to undermine it, to elevate the child of a woman outside the line of succession above you. The room spun. Tasha staggered back. Logan stared at Marcus, shock and betrayal, collapsing into devastation. You're lying, Tasha whispered. My father loved my mother. Marcus nodded. Perhaps he did. But he loved the idea of a successor even more. Logan's chest heaved. You're telling me Edward was leaving to replace me? Not replace Marcus, said softly. Protect the child he believed would be stronger, more adaptable, more suitable. The words struck like a blade. Tasha felt her knees give. Logan caught her before she fell. Tasha, don't listen to him, he whispered, voice frayed with pain. Marcus watched them with clinical interest. This is what love does, he said. It blinds, it corrodes, it destroys legacy. Logan glared at him. You don't know anything about... Oh, but I do. Marcus's eyes darkened. Because Edward loved you too, Logan. Enough to choose you over her child. Enough to stay. Enough to sacrifice everything to keep you the rightful heir. Tasha's breath shattered. Her heart felt like it was being ripped apart between two truths, one she had believed her whole life, and one that suddenly felt possible in the worst way. Logan looked at her, blue eyes breaking. Tasha, please, don't believe him. She wanted to say, I don't. She wanted to say, I trust you. She wanted to fall into him and drown the truth with love. But the words Marcus spoke were ripping through her mind like claws. Her father chose his firstborn, chose Logan, chose the empire. Not her, not her mother. The betrayal tasted metallic on her tongue. Tasha, Logan whispered again, voice cracking, look at me. She did. And her heart split because she saw pain in him that matched her own. I'm not my father, he said. I'm not what he did. A tear slipped down her cheek. I know, she whispered, but she didn't know. Not anymore. Marcus took a step back toward the door. We're done for now, he said. You'll come back on your own. You always do. Then he delivered the final twist. And Tasha, when you're ready to learn the full truth, you know where to find me. He stepped into the rain. Logan slammed the door shut and locked it. Silence dropped like an explosion. Tasha stood frozen, tears streaming, her entire world shifting beneath her. Logan reached for her. She stepped back. The hurt on his face was immediate. Raw. Tasha, he whispered. She wrapped her arms around herself, voice barely audible. I need time. He swallowed hard. Take all the time you need, he said softly, but don't walk away from me. Her eyes closed, and her silence broke him more than words ever could. Tasha didn't remember opening the door. She didn't remember grabbing her jacket. She didn't remember taking a single step. All she remembered was the cold. The mountain air slapped her as she ran down the porch steps through the wet brush into the thin pines where dawn barely touched the forest floor. The sky was gray, muted, the kind of morning that held its breath with her. Her lungs burned. Her throat tightened. Her heart sounded like it was trying to break free. She didn't know how long she ran before her body gave out, and she collapsed against a tree trunk, sliding down until damp moss met her palms. Her breath came in violent shivers. Her hands shook without permission. Her tears were hot on her skin despite the cold. The cabin was out of sight now. Logan was out of sight. Marcus's lies still echoed like poison in her skull. Edward chose his firstborn. He chose legacy over you. Your father didn't leave for love, he left for an heir. No, she whispered into her shaking hands. No, no. She didn't know if she was denying Marcus's words or the way they tore through her chest like claws. She drew her knees up and pressed her forehead to them. She didn't want to think, didn't want to feel, didn't want any of this to be real. But her mother's letter, the gentleness, the longing, the regret whispered in her mind. He loved me more than anyone understood. He wanted you. He would have chosen us. Her mother would not lie. But Marcus wasn't lying either. His calm certainty, his knowledge, his connection to the darkest parts of the Pierce legacy felt too real. Two truths that couldn't coexist, unless her father had loved them both, unless he had wanted both, unless he had been torn apart before he could choose. Tasha curled tighter, feeling the war inside her chest, the betrayal, the grief. And beneath it, the ache of something she didn't want to name Logan. The way he had looked at her, begged her not to walk away, chosen her every time, no matter what his father had done, no matter what blood ran through him. Her throat closed. I shouldn't have stepped back, she whispered, voice breaking. I didn't mean to hurt him. But she had. She saw it in his eyes. She felt it in her bones, and the guilt clawed at her chest. She pressed a hand to her heart, as if she could steady it. Mom, she whispered to the trees, to the cold air. What am I supposed to do? A wind rustled the pine needles overhead, soft, almost like an answer. She swallowed hard. She needed clarity. She needed something that wasn't tangled in lies or blood or legacy. She needed truth. She pushed herself to her feet and looked around. The cabin was somewhere behind her, but she had climbed higher along a slope she didn't recognize. She scanned the ground. Footprints in mud. Not hers, not Logan's. Smaller, light. She couldn't identify them, but the tread was familiar, like the shoes Sarah always wore at the center. Tasha frowned. Sarah. She followed the prints uphill. 50 feet later, she reached a small overlook, a rocky shelf peeking out over the valley. And there, sitting cross-legged on a boulder, hair tied back, jacket wrapped tightly, was Sarah Kim. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't afraid. She looked like someone waiting. Tasha approached slowly. You followed me. Sarah didn't turn around. You looked like you needed space. I needed truth, Tasha said, voice sharp with exhaustion. And I'm still not sure I have it. Sarah finally lifted her gaze to the gray horizon. You heard too much, too quickly, she said. You're hurting. Tasha's eyes narrowed. Don't do that. Don't treat me like one of your patients. Sarah's expression flickered painfully. I'm not. I'm treating you like a woman who just had her world rearranged without consent. Tasha exhaled shakily and sat beside her, knees drawn close. The valley below stretched endlessly. Layers of mist, shifting light peaks fading into clouds. The world looked untouched, pure, unaware of the chaos bleeding through her life. After a long silence, Sarah spoke. Tasha, Marcus didn't lie about everything. The words sliced through her. Tasha's breath caught. So my father didn't love my mother. No, Sarah said gently. That's the part he twisted. Tasha turned sharply. Then what's true? Sarah sighed. Edward adored your mother. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. Strong, brilliant, unafraid to challenge him. He fell in love quickly, deeply. A tear slid down Tasha's cheek, but Sarah added, voice softening. Edward was also a Pierce, raised with expectations, groomed for leadership, burdened by legacy. He fought it, but he never fully escaped it. So he wanted both. Tasha whispered. Her and the family. Yes, Sarah said. And that's why he was vulnerable. Because he was torn. Because he believed he could protect all of you. Tasha stared at the misty valley, imagining a man she had never met, caught between two worlds, two loves, two futures. What about Logan? She asked, voice trembling. Is he torn too? Sarah considered the question. No, she said slowly. Logan isn't his father. Marcus thinks he is. Marcus sees what he wants to see, Sarah murmured. Power, threats, bloodlines. But Logan sees you. He always has. Tasha's chest tightened painfully. I stepped away from him. And he still followed you with his eyes, Sarah said, even when you didn't look back. Tasha buried her face in her hands. This is all so messed up. It is, Sarah agreed. But messy doesn't mean meaningless. Tasha let out a broken laugh. Are you giving me therapy right now? Sarah smiled weakly. No. I'm telling you that you love him. Silence. Tasha didn't answer. She didn't have to. It showed in every tear, in every breath, in every step she had taken away from him, hoping he'd pull her back. But something else gnawed at her. How do you know so much about my mother? Tasha asked. Sarah inhaled deeply. Tasha. Marianne wasn't just someone I met at a clinic. She was my mentor, my friend, my family before I had any. Tasha turned, startled. Sarah looked away, blinking rapidly. She saved me, Sarah whispered. When I was drowning in my own life, your mother was the one who saw it. She took me in. She taught me. She believed in me when no one else did. A lump formed in Tasha's throat. Why didn't you tell me I was afraid? Sarah said. Afraid of Pierce's eyes watching. Afraid of dragging you into a world she tried so hard to keep you from. Tasha shook her head slowly. And yet, here I am. Sarah reached out and squeezed her hand. I'm sorry, Tasha, for everything I didn't say, and everything I did. Tasha looked at her, really looked at her. Sarah's guilt, her devotion to Marianne, her attempt to make amends, all of it was real. But before Tasha could respond, a voice carried up the slope behind them. Tasha. Her heart leapt. She stood instantly. Logan emerged through the trees, breathing hard. Eyes desperate, hair, wind-tossed jacket partially unzipped, as if he'd run without thinking. When his eyes found her, everything inside him softened at once. Tasha. He breathed, closing the distance in long strides. She froze, rooted by fear, love, confusion. He reached her hands immediately on her arms, checking if she was hurt. Don't run from me, he whispered. Please don't run. Her voice broke. I didn't mean to. I know, he murmured, but it still scared me. Tasha looked up at him, seeing the torment in his eyes. He wasn't angry. He wasn't blaming her. He was terrified of losing her. I'm sorry, she whispered. His breath hitched. I'm not, he said softly. If you hadn't gone, you wouldn't have found this. He held something up, a photograph. Tasha blinked. It was old, edges worn, colors faded. Her mother, and a woman beside her, a younger Sarah. Tasha's heart seized. Where did you... It fell out of the file last night, Logan said. I didn't want to overwhelm you then. But you deserve to know everything. Tasha stared at her mother's face, smiling. Free. Happy. The grief punched her so hard she nearly doubled over. Logan steadied her instantly. Tasha, he whispered, pressing his forehead to hers. You're not alone in this. Not anymore. Her breath shook. I'm scared, she confessed. So am I, he murmured. But I'm scared of losing you, not the truth. A sob tore from her. He pulled her into his arms. She melted into him like she belonged there. And for a moment, a fragile, aching moment, the world went quiet. No Marcus, no empire, no bloodline. Just him and her. But the peace didn't last. A crack sounded from deeper in the trees. Not thunder, not wind. Footsteps. Logan's stiffened, eyes narrowing. Sarah's face drained. Tasha, she whispered, we need to move. Now. Tasha grabbed Logan's hand. This time, she didn't run from him. She ran with him. The footsteps were too heavy to be hikers, too deliberate to be an accident, too synchronized to be wildlife. The forest shifted, quieting, the way it did before a storm, letting dread settle like fog around the three of them. Logan tightened his grip on Tasha's hand, his body instinctively moving between her and the approaching sound. Sarah stepped beside them, her face pale but controlled eyes sharp with calculation. Tasha, Sarah whispered, stay close. Whatever happens, don't get separated. What is it? Tasha breathed, her pulse pounding against her ribs. Marcus Logan said a single name spoken like a curse. And then he appeared. He stepped out from the shadows of the trees with an ease that felt wrong here, wrong in the silence, wrong with the edge of violence in the air. Marcus was dressed in black today. Black coat, black gloves, even a black scarf making his pale eyes almost luminous beneath the canopy of pines. He wasn't alone. Two men in mountain gear flanked him, each carrying something bulky under their jackets. Not guns, this wasn't that kind of threat, but something heavy enough to hurt if needed. Something meant to intimidate. Tasha's heart seized. Running before breakfast, Marcus drawled, smiling like a man arriving late to a party he had orchestrated. A bit rude considering I came all this way to speak with you. Logan stepped forward, shielding Tasha without even thinking. You're not welcome here. Marcus raised a brow. That's not your decision to make anymore. Sarah replied before Logan could. You're trespassing. Marcus gave her an indulgent glance. Please, Dr. Kim. We both know you don't own this land. Something in Sarah's posture shifted, something like fury trembling beneath her calm. Tasha felt it immediately. Sarah, she whispered. What's he talking about? Sarah didn't answer, not directly. Her jaw clenched, her silence louder than any confession. Marcus smiled wider. Ah, she didn't tell you, did she? Tell her what Logan demanded. Marcus lifted a gloved hand and pointed to the ground beneath their feet. This mountain, this entire range, in fact, it belonged to Edward Pierce. Tasha froze. That doesn't make sense, she whispered. This place was my mother's sanctuary, her escape from the Pierces. She said she found it by chance. Marcus's eyes flickered with something like pity. Your mother was many things, Tasha, but naive was not one of them. Sarah inhaled sharply, too sharply. Tasha spun toward her. Sarah, what is he saying? Sarah looked away, and that was the moment Tasha felt the floor drop out from under her. You knew, Tasha whispered. You knew this was connected to my father, to the Pierces. Sarah's eyes filled, but she didn't try to deny it. I wanted to protect you. By lying to her, Logan snapped. By keeping her alive. Sarah retorted softly. Marcus watched the exchange like a man enjoying a play he had seen many times before. This land, he said, was bought by Edward Pierce when he was in his early 20s. A getaway. A refuge. A place he brought exactly one woman who wasn't his wife. The words hit Tasha like a blow. "My mother," she whispered. Logan's grip on her tightened, painfully grounding her as the trees blurred around the edges. Marcus tilted his head. Edward intended to give it to her, you know. He had the papers drafted. But the family intervened before the transfer was complete. Tasha could barely breathe. "You're lying." "I'm not," Marcus replied gently, too gently. "Your father tried to protect you both, but legacy has its demands." "Enough," Logan growled. "You didn't come up here to tell stories." "What do you want?" Marcus's smile turned cold. "The same thing I've always wanted, for the Pierce legacy to stay intact, uncontaminated by scandal, by hidden heirs." His gaze snapped to Tasha, by people who could claim what was never meant for them. The insult crashed through the clearing. Tasha flinched as if slapped. Logan lunged forward. Sarah grabbed his arm before he reached Marcus. "Stop!" she hissed. "That's what he wants." Marcus chuckled. "Your girlfriend is very wise, Logan." Tasha stepped around Logan before he could stop her. Her voice shook, but she did not. "You knew about me," she said, looking Marcus directly in the eye. "All these years, you knew I existed." Marcus didn't even blink. "Of course. And you never once tried to reach out." "Why would I?" he said simply. "Your existence threatened everything." "You mean his existence?" Tasha said, gesturing toward Logan. "Heir to the empire. Perfect son. Perfect future. And I was the shameful secret that didn't fit your narrative." "Not shameful," Marcus corrected. "Dangerous." Tasha's breath caught. How Marcus studied her, his expression shifting into something unsettlingly thoughtful. "Because Edward Pierce's bloodline isn't just about money or land," he said softly. "It's about influence, power, control. An empire built over generations, each heir chosen carefully, intentionally. Your existence complicates that legacy." Tasha felt cold all over. "Because I'm a woman?" she asked bitterly. Marcus's gaze hardened. "Because you're black." The air snapped like a broken string. Logan moved so fast, Sarah couldn't stop him. He seized Marcus by the collar and slammed him against a pine bark, crunching under the impact. "Say that again," Logan snarled, shaking. "Say it again, and I swear Marcus didn't fight back. Didn't even flinch. He simply looked at Logan with calm, infuriating pity. "You think you can erase the stains of this family with your good intentions?" Marcus murmured. "You can't." Logan's grip tightened. "We're not our father." "No," Marcus said quietly. "You're not. That's what makes this tragic." Tasha stepped forward. "Let him go, Logan." Logan turned to her jaw, clenched breath shaking, but at her voice something inside him softened. He released Marcus and stepped back, chest heaving. Marcus straightened his coat, brushing bark from the fabric. "This is why I came," he said. "Not to threaten you, not to expose you, but to warn you." Sarah scoffed. "You don't warn people. You manipulate them." Marcus ignored her. "Tasha, he said what Edward started, and what he tried to hide did not die with him. There are people, family or not, who will not allow a scandal of this size to surface." Tasha frowned. "What scandal?" Marcus sighed, as if exhausted by her ignorance. "You're not just Edward's daughter," he said. "You're his firstborn." So Tasha shot back. "So," Marcus said slowly, "Pierce. Law. Our internal bylaws, old and archaic as they are. states that the firstborn inherits controlling interest, regardless of gender, regardless of marital status, regardless of... He stopped. The unsaid burned between them, regardless of race. Tasha's stomach dropped. "You're saying," she whispered, "I could claim the company?" Marcus nodded once. "Half of it. Legally." Logan froze. Sarah cursed under her breath, and Tasha felt the world tilt on its axis. "I don't want it," she said immediately. Marcus laughed softly. "Want has nothing to do with it. But others, board members, shareholders, old money families won't accept the possibility of a hidden heir without eliminating the threat." Tasha's blood ran cold. Eliminating Marcus, shrugged hands lifting in a gesture both elegant and chilling. Reputation first, then livelihood. And if that fails, well, accidents happen, especially to people without security. Logan stepped forward, voice vibrating with rage. "You lay a hand on her, anyone lays a hand on her, and I will burn the entire Pierce empire to the ground." Marcus studied him for a long moment. Then he bowed his head slightly. "That," he whispered, "is why you may yet save her." Tasha's breath trembled. "Why are you telling us this?" Marcus looked genuinely haunted for the first time. "Because Edward loved you," he said quietly. "More than he ever loved our mother. More than he loved the company. More than he loved legacy. And I respected him." He swallowed thickly. "And because Logan is my brother, and despite everything he deserves the chance to protect you." Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Tasha's heart cracked open. Logan sucked in a slow, unsteady breath. Sarah stared at Marcus as if seeing a stranger. Marcus took a step back into the trees. "You need to leave the mountain," he said. "Today. Now. Before others come looking." Tasha found her voice. "Will we see you again?" Marcus paused. "No," he said softly. "And for your sake, pray you don't." Then he disappeared into the forest like a ghost, swallowed by the tall pines. Tasha turned to Logan, eyes wide, breath thin, heart full of fear and love, and something dangerously close to fate. "Logan," she whispered, "what do we do?" He stepped toward her, wrapped his hands around her face, pressed his forehead to hers. "We fight," he whispered. "Together. No more running. No more secrets. No more legacy deciding our lives." Tasha swallowed hard. "And the company," she breathed. "If you want it," he said, "we take it. If you don't, we burn it down." She laughed a cracked, shaky sound and pulled him closer. Sarah stepped forward, voice low and steady. "We head back," she said. "Pack what we need. And then we disappear long enough to plan. Because Marcus is right. This isn't over." Tasha looked between them. The man she loved. The woman who carried her mother's memory. The enemy who had offered a warning instead of a death sentence. And she felt it. The storm wasn't coming. It was already here. But this time, she wasn't facing it alone. She took a breath, gripping Logan's hand tightly. "Let's go," she said, "before the mountain stops being a sanctuary." And together, Tasha, Logan, and Sarah turned toward the cabin, unaware that the next 24 hours would lead them to a revelation so seismic it would redefine everything: love, loyalty, legacy, and the true power hidden in Tasha's blood. A power strong enough to shatter the Pierce empire or rebuild it in her name. They left the mountain before noon. Not because they were running, not because Marcus had frightened them, but because the air around the cabin had shifted too still, too alert, as if the trees themselves were listening. Logan kept Tasha close as they descended the winding trail. Their fingers intertwined, his thumb rubbing circles across her knuckles. A gesture meant to soothe her, but she could feel the tremors under his skin. He was the one unraveling quietly, terrified beneath the protective calm he wore like armor. Sarah led the way, her posture rigid, her mind working through contingencies they hadn't yet spoken aloud. Halfway down the mountain, Tasha paused and looked back. The cabin stood still among the pines, silent, lonely, holding memories it had no right to keep. Her mother had once loved that place. Now it was marked by bloodlines, by revelations, by danger she hadn't asked for. And yet, it was also the place where Logan had chosen her, even while the world tried to tell him not to. "Ready?" he asked softly. She nodded. "Yeah, let's finish this."
Mom.
The plan. They met that evening in Sarah's office at the Community Wellness Center, the one Tasha had helped build from the ground up, the one that had become her second home. Outside, the world went on car horns, rain on the windows, the hum of a city that didn't know a silent war was unfolding behind its brick walls. Inside, only one lamp was lit. Logan sat beside Tasha. Sarah leaned over a stack of documents. And on the desk, like a ghost that refused to disappear, lay the photograph of Marianne with a younger Sarah. Tasha picked it up, running her thumb along the faded edge. "She trusted you," she said quietly. "My mother trusted you more than anyone." Sarah met her gaze. "And I failed her by not preparing you sooner." Tasha shook her head. "You saved me. You've been saving me since before I understood why." Logan reached for her hand under the desk. But the moment of gentleness didn't last. "We have a decision to make," he said, voice steady but low. "About the company. About the legacy Marcus warned us about." The word legacy made Tasha's stomach twist. "I don't want their empire," she whispered. "I never did." "I know," Logan murmured. "But it's not just about wanting it anymore. It's about protecting yourself." Sarah nodded. "If the board learns who you are, and you'll be targeted, silenced, ruined. Only leverage protects you now." Leverage. Tasha repeated, hating how foreign the word felt on her tongue. "Meaning the inheritance. Meaning," Logan said gently, "claiming your father's acknowledgement." Tasha inhaled sharply. "I don't have proof." "You do." Sarah placed a thin envelope on the table. Tasha frowned. "What is that?" "A letter," Sarah said softly. "Written by your mother the week before she died. She asked me to keep it. I wasn't sure when or if I should give it to you. But now." Tasha's fingers trembled as she slid the paper free. Marianne's handwriting curled across the page, familiar, looping soft. "My Tasha. If you're reading this, it means truth has finally found you." Tasha swallowed hard as she read her mother's love, her regret, her fear that Edward's family would one day try to erase her daughter's existence. And then the line that changed everything. He signed the acknowledgement. "I have the document. You are his heir legally, and by his own choosing." Tasha's vision blurred. "What document?" Logan asked. "There," Sarah said, sliding a folded deed across the table. The original acknowledgement notarized. Edward gave it to Marianne the night before she left him. Tasha stared. A signature. Her father's name, her mother's maiden name, her own, all bound together in ink. It felt like a ghost reaching across time to place a hand on her shoulder. Logan exhaled unsteadily. "Tasha, this changes everything." Sarah nodded. "You don't have to fight for legitimacy anymore. You already have it." Tasha closed her eyes, and something inside her finally steadied. For the first time since the truth surfaced, she wasn't drowning. She was standing on solid ground. The confrontation. The next morning they walked into the Pierce boardroom together. Logan on her right, Sarah on her left, Tasha in the center, the place that had once terrified her, but now felt like something she was destined to face. The room went silent. Executives whispered. Cameras clicked. Some faces turned curious. Others turned hostile. Marcus was there too, standing at the far end of the table, his expression unreadable. The chairman, a thin man with silver glasses, cleared his throat. "This is a private meeting," he said coolly. "Guests are not permitted." Tasha stepped forward before Logan could speak. "I'm not a guest." The chairman blinked. "Then who exactly are you?" Tasha's voice didn't shake. "I'm Tasha Morgan," she said, "daughter of Marianne Ellis." She paused, lifting her chin. "And firstborn child of Edward Pierce." A gasp sliced through the room. Some executives stood. Others cursed. One woman dropped her pen. The chairman's face drained of all color. "That is a very serious claim." "I'm aware," Tasha replied. She placed her mother's letter, the acknowledgement, and the deed on the table. Sarah slid notarized copies beside them. Logan remained silent, but she felt his pride radiating beside her like heat. Marcus approached slowly. "I told you," he murmured to the board. "She's legitimate. This is—" The chairman stuttered. "Impossible." "Uncomfortable," Marcus corrected. "Not impossible." Silence fell again. Then the questions began. Accusations. Skepticism. Old prejudices resurfacing like rot beneath polished wood. Tasha met every glare with unflinching calm, every sneer with a steady breath. Until finally the room quieted, and Marcus of all people stepped forward and placed a hand on the documents. "Her claim is valid," he said. "Edward signed this. It is binding." The chairman sagged into his chair. What do you want?" Ms. Morgan. Tasha didn't hesitate. "Protection," she said. "For myself. For the people I love. In exchange for my silence about this inheritance and the decades-long cover-up." Logan tensed, turning to her. "Tasha." She squeezed his hand once gently. "I don't want their empire," she whispered. "I want my life." The board murmured again, shocked, confused, relieved. Marcus studied her quietly, something like admiration flickering in his eyes. "You're your father's daughter," he said softly. "Stubborn, principled, unpredictable." Tasha didn't smile. "Not yet." "Do we have a deal?" she asked. The chairman nodded. "Yes. We'll finalize the agreement immediately." Tasha exhaled, long, deep trembling. It was done. She had won. Without taking a throne she didn't want. Without sharing blood with people who didn't deserve it. Without letting fear write the rest of her story. Logan pulled her into his arms the moment they were outside the building. The city roared around them, but all she heard was his heartbeat. "You didn't need to protect me like that," he whispered. "I wasn't protecting you, Logan." She smiled weakly. "I was choosing us." His forehead pressed against hers. "Then, let me choose you too." And he kissed her in the middle of the street, a kiss full of relief, longing hope, and a future finally free from ghosts. The future. 6 months later. Tasha stood under a canopy of Spanish moss sunlight, filtering through like blessings. They were in Charleston again. Not at a boardroom, not on a mountain, but at the old community garden behind the wellness center, the one she had helped rebuild, the one that had once been abandoned, the one Logan had quietly donated to in her name. She wore white. Logan wore navy. And when they exchanged vows, there was no audience except Sarah Maya and a few people whose lives Tasha had changed. No empire, no legacy, no bloodline. Just two people who had fought their way back to each other. When Logan slid the ring onto her finger, his hands shook. But his voice didn't. "Tasha Morgan," he whispered, "you are my beginning and my home. Every part of my life makes sense because it led me to you." Her eyes filled. "Logan Pierce, she said you taught me that strength isn't about being alone. It's about choosing someone who sees you, holds you, and refuses to let you fall. You're not my rescue. You're my partner, my future." They kissed. The world held its breath. And for the first time, Tasha felt truly free. Not because of what she had escaped, but because of what she had chosen. Love. Truth. A life built not from bloodlines, but from courage. Later that night, as they slow danced under string lights and the hum of soft jazz, Logan wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Mrs. Pierce," he whispered against her neck, smiling. She laughed softly. "Mrs. Morgan Pierce." He grinned. Even better. They swayed under the stars, two souls who had survived the past, rewritten their legacy, and carved a future that belonged only to them. A future filled with hope, with healing, with a love stronger than any empire. And as Tasha rested her head against Logan's chest, listening to the heartbeat that had become her anchor, she finally whispered the words she had once been afraid to believe. "We made it." Logan kissed her hair. "Together," he said, "always." And the night wrapped around them soft, safe, the beginning of a lifetime written by their own hands. The end.